wrote in your paper I want to pick up on is you were really committed to something that is reproducible. People you train can do it. And it seems to me this is a really big issue for us in theological education and training, is that probably all of us would say, I'm committed to my students passing on what I teach them. But when you really get down to the nitty-gritty of it, a whole lot of the people we train really can't pass it on, or they don't. And the methods you've used, have demonstrated that. Let's see if some of the group wants to ask. It's your turn now to address questions to the panel. What do you think about the informal training? What's it going to take to contextualize theological training or education at that level? Your questions, your comments.
I'm very concerned, of course, from the theological educational perspective in the institution. What relationships are you developing with traditional seminaries and Bible schools that validate what you do? And that's open to anyone.
I would say, from our perspective, we have thought about a traditional seminary setting, and we've taken the training that we do and we put it into what would this look like to do it in a seminary. We've chosen appropriate reading. We've chosen appropriate assignments where we feel like we have a syllabus and we have teachers who are able and qualified to offer a turnkey solution for a theological seminary. It's being done in Mombasa, which is not too far away from where you guys are.
In India, 3 places.
Oh yeah, and we've got 3 Bible schools in India. That's true. I forgot about that.
I think there's another division there, and that is, and this is something that we will face as we look at coming from seminary training, literate style, to getting down to perhaps a certificate-based program that's oral for oral learners, is in Kenya, at some point, no matter at what level of literacy a person is at, if they're receiving training in ministry, they're going to want to go to a higher level, and they will want to keep climbing as high as they can go. So I think the issue is how do we work together from the root to the branch of helping people move along, which implies at some point they're probably going to have to pick up literacy along the way. But also, we need to factor in orality in terms of the training, as Bill noted. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Other questions? Somebody want to pick up on that back here?
I'm going to change direction a little bit. That's okay.
Okay. Anything more about, because this becomes a big issue of the training for oral cultures does not necessarily mean training that is exclusively oral. That there's often a desire on their part to bridge into literacy and these other programs. Dorothy, you speak to that?
This training has been done at Denver Theological Seminary and at Biola. The same training that we do actually in the field was done and accredited for a master's program. Tom can tell us more details because he had said some of them. And it's also being done in Grace Bible College, South India Seminary. So the same course is actually part and accredited course. So it's not just for orals. If we can figure out how the Bible could be understood deeply in an oral way, we wouldn't have to, there wouldn't be a disconnect. And that's where we think there's a disconnect where there doesn't need to be. And that's what we're hoping for people to see. About 50% of the people that are in the oral Bible schools that we're running have had Bible school training 4 years, some of them. And they're coming to this because they said what they learned didn't work. So there is a coming together. We're closer than we think. I really believe.
Emmanuel.
Yes, I'm interested in the multilingual context. And how does that affect oral learners? I come from a context where we speak 3 languages. Mother tongue, national language, which is Swahili, for people of different tribes, and then English, which is our national language. How has that affected? And I'm looking at the Brazilian case where, do they 2 languages or 3 languages in that, or any of your experiences?
Okay, yeah, both of these schools are directed towards indigenous people groups in the Amazon region. Now, fortunately, 4 or 5 of these groups that we have had over the years in our schools are from the same linguistic trunk, which means cultural and language similarities. That helps a lot. That helps to keep us focused. Fortunately, even the other 2 or 3 groups that come from other linguistic families, they're all headed the same direction. They obviously don't have the same cultural or language starting points because they grew up speaking different languages, but they're all in the process, some farther ahead, some farther behind. Some farther ahead as a culture because they've had more socialization, some farther behind because they've been more isolated over the recent years. But they're all heading towards learning, in the process of learning Portuguese and becoming productive and employable, in many cases, citizens of Brazil. So the other thing that's helped us is that most of the missionaries, ourselves included, have decades of experience in the field, you know, being there, being adopted into the cultures, living and working and eating with the cultures on a day-to-day basis over a long number of years. And so when we put the schools together, what we had in common far outweighed any differences of opinions, just because of the Brazilian reality for most of the tribes. The other thing that helps is because the tribes are in the same geographical part of Brazil. Brazil is a big country, but they're all in northern Brazil in the western Amazon region. So all of this has helped to make it easier to have a more focused school where whatever we do is largely understood by all of the students, and where there are differences, the missionaries are in many cases present in the classroom to help them and to clear up any of their doubts.
Just one clarification. Who is involved in crafting the stories? When like the missionaries who go there, or the people from there? We're talking about contextualizing. And say if I go to Bihar now, I don't know, I can't craft the story. That's why we use the people from. So it depends on, to contextualize, you have to take the people from there. And that's what we were trying to do in the Bible College there, to take the people from the particular community, bring them for the theological education, and then use them for.
Yeah, well, what we found is that we don't feel that we need to craft the stories, that God has put these stories and the details that are in there for reasons, and that many times the spiritual treasures that come out. I think about, there's one example where, you know, a story had gone into a particular culture, and it was about the man with a withered hand. And so they went in and they said, well, the man with the withered hand. Well, later on, someone else came in and said, well, the man had a withered right hand, which is, you know, the detail in the Bible. And the people said, wait a second, his right hand was withered? Well, yeah. They said, we didn't know that. That makes all the difference, because that's his good hand. His right hand is the one he does everything with. That makes all the difference. So sometimes those little details that we think, well, how important are they, can be the thing that really transforms the people. Mm-hmm. And with the story selection as well, I was in Sri Lanka, I was doing a training there, and there was a woman who, we were doing the story where Elisha comes to the woman and said,